everyone and welcome to my channel. My name is Jade and today I am doing my favorite books of 2018. So coincidentally, I ended up picking 18, which I love. But we're gonna start from the 18th and move up to the first so you have some excitement to go with you. A lot of these books I don't have because I got from the library, and actually I gave all my friends my favorite books, like one of my friends, because I wanted her to read them all. So a lot of them she has, which was funny when I was trying to find them. I'm like, I swear to God I have this book, where is it? My friend has them. But let's just get into it because I'm so excited to show you guys all these books I have. So, the first one I have for you guys is Under Rose Tainted Skies. This book I read at the very, very beginning of the year, and I don't remember too much about it, but it is about a girl who has agoraphobia, so she doesn't go outside, and then across the street a boy moves in, and they start like communicating through the window and stuff like that. And, you know, of course they kind of fall for each other, but they have to deal with the fact that she can't go outside. And also some other things happen. Gotta tell you, the ending really gets me. But it's also really cool to see, like, just from the point of view of someone that has a mental disorder, because it's just not a perspective you usually see or, like, read in a lot of books. And I really liked the cute guy because he was pretty interesting, and I really liked like all the characters. I thought were really good. It reminds me a lot of Everything Everything, except Everything Everything's twist was horrific and I hate it, so this book was just like a little bit better to me. The next book I have for you guys is Norse Mythology by Neil Gaiman. I listened to this on audiobook and I loved this because it just like takes all the Norse stories and well, not all of them obviously, but it tells some of the Norse stories. And I really liked it because I did not know a lot about Norse mythology. As a kid I was super into Greek mythology, and then I read the Percy Jackson series and it made me love it even more. But I never got into Norse mythology, and I decided I wanted to try, and I saw that the audiobook service I use has it on there, so I decided to listen to it, and it was really, really good. I loved the way that he told the stories. I thought they were just very vivid and interesting. Like, you could kind of feel the atmosphere of them, and the ending is, like, really weird. Ragnarok, to read about it, or to listen to it, I guess. It's very strange. But I've just heard a lot about Neil Gaiman's other books too, and I think he is actually a really good author, even though this is the only book I've read from him. So I would like to read his other ones just to kind of see like what other viewpoints he brings, because I feel like for some reason he just brings a different voice to the stories that he retold. So the next book I have for you guys is The Lone Ranger and Tonto Fist Fight in Heaven. I read this for a Native American heritage class I took in my last year of high school, my senior year, which was actually this year still, which is kind of crazy because now I've through a semester of college. But I really, really liked it. We were only like had to read like one or two stories, and I ended up reading the whole book like in one day at school because I just couldn't put it down. It's a bunch of short stories all taking place on the same reservation, and they all like intertwine with each other. And the stories, like, his book is meant to show what it's like to live on a reservation with like the alcoholism and just like kind of like the hopelessness that a lot of people have. But it also like showed quietly the positive side. Like, it was kind of like a quiet background thing, but you saw that there was at least hope. And I just really loved his stories. They were so strange and confusing, but once you read the whole book, they made so much more sense. And I think it's just the kind of book that you have to reread, and every time you reread it, you'll understand more and more. But I really, really enjoyed it, and I would recommend it to anyone who, like, is just into something other than fantasy. Because, like, I love YA and I love reading fantasy and stuff, but actually, a couple of these books on this list are completely different from YA, because I read them for school, and I actually really loved them. But I'll get into that later for one of the next books, which is probably one of my favorite books I've read that isn't like YA. The next one I have for you guys is Even the Darkest Stars. This is, I think, the first book I read this year, So that's pretty cool that it made it on this list at number 14. Nope, 15. Counting skills, guys. It's about. So, what I liked about this book is it's like the world is a little bit different because they're in like tribes and they have like a tribal leader and like a council of elders, and I just liked that interpretation in a YA fantasy because that's not something you read about, and of course I like reading things that aren't always the same, so I really enjoyed it. And I liked the it seems like there were so many things happening in the world at once because you never get to see the capital city, but I assumed it was like a lot of other fantasy books, but then it's mixed in with like all these like small little tribal clans everywhere and stuff, so I really liked that. And I liked the magic system they had. That was really interesting. And the familiars, I loved the fact that like everyone had like a familiar if they were powerful. That was really cool. And just the adventure they had to go on and the like monsters that along the way were like uncovered, because a lot of people don't know a lot about the monsters in the land because they stay to their own village and just deal with that. But there's so much more going on, and there's like these witches that the empire like defeated a long time ago that are coming back because all their powers were taken, and the whole plot is like kind of trying, the witches are doing something in order to get their powers back. And it was just really, really good. And I actually kind of want to reread it. I want to see when the second book is coming out. I should look that up. Ooh, I wonder if it's coming out in 2019. That'd be kind of cool. Alright, the next book I have for you guys is The Red Tent by Anita Diamant. So this book is another one of the like completely different. I read this book for my women's studies class I took my senior year. And this I really loved because actually, so I'm not religious, but it's from the perspective of Diana, who's the daughter of someone who's important to the Bible. Like, what's his name? Oh, there's a family tree in the beginning. So her dad is Jacob from the Bible, and it's Diana, who in the Bible is like kidnapped and raped, and then her brothers go and like kill everyone as retribution and stuff. But in the story, that's like not at all what happened. But what I really, really loved about this book is, so Jacob like is the whole Bible stuff, but he had multiple wives, which changes obviously later on. But the wives all have their own like gods, and they don't follow Jacob's gods, and you get to kind of learn about them and their like just rituals that they have. So the red tent is whenever girls have their period, all of them go into the red tent like when they have it, and they just basically get a week away from all the men and all the duties of just living in their own like household. And you learn a lot about just everyone's story, and I really loved, so the first part of the book is about her. She has 4 mothers, so she has her birth mother and her mother's 3 sisters, and the first part of the book is all about their lives, and then the next part's about her, and then the last part's like about when she's older, because the middle part's like about her and like the whole like thing that happened, where in the Bible she was raped, but in this book she actually fell in love and got married, and then her brothers came and murdered him. So that's fun. And then the last part's about her, because she had a child, and it's like kind of all of the strange things that end up happening with that. She moves to Egypt. I don't know, it's just very, very good. I really just loved this story. I don't know why, it's hard to explain, but it just struck something in me that was so interesting. Just the whole aspect of the red tent too, and like seeing kind of like how hard it was for women back then, but they were able to make it like safe for themselves and like had their own power, but then you also saw that get taken away from them because of like religious things. I don't know, it was just really good. But I'm gonna move on from that one. The next book I have to talk about is Dread Nation. I listened to this one not very long ago, and I really, really liked it because I haven't ever read a book like it. So it's basically the Civil War in America, except halfway through the war, the dead started, coming up and attacking. So it's just zombies taking place in like Civil War times. But so technically, people are not slaves. Like African Americans aren't slaves, but they're still treated like them. So they're the ones that go off and fight the zombies. They're trained to do that. But you see how like it seems like the battle against them is going well, but it's actually really not, and you kind of see like what's happening with that, and that there's so much that they don't understand about what's happening. But I just really liked it because you have the struggle of this like horrible zombie horde trying to kill everyone, and then you have the trouble of just people being assholes and treating African Americans like slaves, even though they're the only ones protecting you from like the zombies. But more than that, the main character was just super good. Like, she was really fun to listen to. She was very, very smart, and she knew how to play other people. So sometimes she would, like, act really dumb because that's what people expected of her. But she was really intelligent, and she was a leader, and she knew how to, like, handle a lot of situations. I just really liked her. I liked all of the characters. It was a bunch of really good characters. It was a really interesting narrative, and I definitely recommend it. That one's definitely a 5 out of 5 stars. All of these basically are, but that one like really deserves 5 out of 5 in my opinion. The next book we have is Daughter of the Burning City, which I also read at the beginning of the year, and I really loved it. It takes place in like this circus setting, except everyone who's in the circus kind of has like some form of magic basically, and the main character, she has this illusion magic where she's made her own family of these illusions, except they're so real that you can touch them. So they're not like really illusions. And then someone starts killing her illusions. So she's going around trying to find who the murderer is and figuring out that and realizing that her powers are different than she thought because someone's being able to kill something that's supposed to be just an illusion. So the storyline, along with how strange and interesting the circus was, and like the world around it too, because the world wasn't like the normal world. It has magic and people that hate magic, and it's just very, very interesting, and I really, really enjoyed it. I actually kind of want to reread it too. I always want to reread so many books, but I have this entire shelf of books I have to read, so like we'll definitely get to it at some point. The next book is Layer of Dreams, which is the second book in the Diviners series. I also read that at the beginning of the year. It's a big book, but it's really, really good. What I really enjoyed about it is it brought together... So the book's series takes place from many different characters' point of views, and they all kind of have something different going on. But in the second book, you see them come together because of this event that's happening that they're trying to stop and, like, help with, but it's just so good. It's like it takes place in New York in like the roaring 20s. So what I really love with the different characters is you get to see all the different aspects of that time. You have a perspective of a flapper, of a cunning, charming thief. You have the perspective of an African American during that time who's also like seen as like a healer, and people like want his attention, but he also is a runner for like bootlegging. He like runs the numbers, or he's like, no, not for bootlegging, he's a runner for like bets and stuff, so it's like still illegal. And then you also see a different perspective of this like beautiful, mysterious stage performer and stuff like that, and it's just super cool. And they all have their own stories, but they all are coming together because of something that's happening, and it's just such a good book, and I need to finish it. Ooh, maybe that should be a goal for 2019, is to finish all the series that are trilogies that I'm on the third one for, because that would be kind of cool. Okay, the next one I have is The Rattle Bones. This book is another strange one for me because it's not what I normally read, but it was so interesting, and it made me find out that another one of my favorite settings for books is in like Rhode Island or like Maine and like that area, because it's not something that I know. I've never been there, and it's just so different, and it's beautiful, and it's interesting because it's all these small towns, but in the summer they have like an influx of like tourists, but otherwise they're just like these small towns doing their own thing. And in this one, she is a lobster catcher, so like she has lobster nets and she does that, and her dad used to do it with her, but he died for some reason. I can't remember actually. But so like she takes care of these lobster nets, and she's like kind of like independent and strong, and I really enjoyed that. And then there's this mysterious island that you find out some really, really interesting, like actually historical facts about the island. But there's this island that she like sees, and everyone stays away from it, and they're afraid of it because they think it's haunted and cursed. But she said one day she sees someone on that island, and there's just stuff that goes along with that. But I really loved it because it's like mystical realism. Like there's something that's mystical about it, but it's like not magic. It's in the normal world, but there's just a little bit of magic, and I love those kind of books as well because they're just different. The next book I have is People Like Us by Donna Malie. This book I really loved. It's why I started getting into like YA detective thriller sort of things. I haven't really read a lot of them, but I read some super good books. I think I read One of Us is Lying in 2017. If I read it this year, it would definitely be on this list, but I think I read it at the end of 2017. But this is like it's the second book that I've read, One of Us is Lying, that's like in that sort of category, and I really, really enjoyed it because it's like at like a prep school, so it's a private school for rich girls, and this girl starts getting blackmailed. So a girl gets found murdered, and people are trying to figure out what's happening with the murder, but then the main character starts getting blackmailed and forcing other people to reveal like really bad secrets of theirs, and eventually she'll obviously have to reveal hers. But so she's trying to figure out this blackmailer, but also they're like dealing with this murder, and the main character is like kind of being like implemented, like she's a suspect, but she's also kind of it's like you're dealing with two things, but you find out that they're actually related. So I really just enjoyed that, and it was really just a really fun story. I don't know, I had a lot of fun with it. I would definitely recommend it. It was like super like dark though, and like mysterious in a way that I really enjoy. The next book I have, which my friend has, is Rebel of the Sands. You all know how much I loved this book. It was just so good. It had so many different kind of things, because it starts out kind of like it's almost the Wild West sort of, because it's a girl that grew up in this super small desert town, and the only reason they were able to survive is because of a mine that people mined out there. But she wants to escape and live her own life, because then if she stays there, like she's not going to have a good life. So she's trying to figure out a way to do that. And then there's this mysterious foreigner that comes and visits, and he kind of like riles things up, and she gets kind of dragged into this adventure. But that's when it switches from like Wild West to like Middle East dingy sort of things, like involves like the dingy and like the, is that how you pronounce them? I don't know, like the magic system, and it switches to more sort of like dealing with like kingdom political issues and magical things, but it also sort of still had like some not like, it had some technology in it too, which I really enjoyed. So it was just a cool mix of just themes. I don't know, I don't even know how to explain it. It's just so good. But yeah, I definitely recommend that for anyone else too. The next one I have is What If It's Us by Adam Silvera and Becky Albertalli, I believe. Those two are very good at writing together. So what they did is they both took a character and they would write chapters from that character's point of views, and they put it together and they made a really good book. So it takes place from obviously two perspectives. One of them is, I can't ever remember his name, but he's one of my favorite characters, so I really need to find it. But he's like quirky and awkward and funny and just like an all around like really great guy to be around. And he's like shy, and he's in New York with his parents because his mom works at a law firm and she has a branch there that she's working at for the summer. So he's interning for her law firm and just like living his life. And one day he sees a boy carrying a package into the post office that's like really attractive, and he just decides to follow him in and start up a conversation, which isn't something he'd normally do. And then obviously the other perspective is from that boy's, and he's more like, I don't even know how to describe him, but he's a little bit more level-headed, a little bit more pessimistic, I think, than the other boy is. And he was actually at the post office to mail this box of things that his ex-boyfriend gave him back to his boyfriend. And it's Arthur, that's the other boy's name. So he meets Arthur at the post office, and they like kind of hit it off, but they get broken apart by a flash mob. So then most of the book is them like actually trying to find each other again because they just sensed a really good connection. And then like it's their story, and obviously it can only last for the summer, but I just really, really enjoyed it, and I hope that they honestly do another book together because that was just a really, really good book. It's just like a fun time kind of read. I don't know, I super duper loved it. The next one is, I have this one. The Other Boleyn Girl by Philippa Gregory. This lady. So, this is like the first type of this book I read, which means, so this book is like a historical fiction that involves a girl and like one of the kings of England. And I figured out that that's actually a genre that I really love, and I've bought a lot of them. I haven't read them, but I will someday because they're really interesting. And this book, this is like a 700-page book, and I read it in 3 days during school. Like, I read this non-stop. I could not put it down. This book is the sister of Anne Boleyn, and Anne Boleyn was one of the wives that was executed by King Henry VIII. So Anne actually ended up becoming... I'm dying. Okay. Anne ended up becoming, not Anne. Mary. So the sister's name is Mary. So the main character became King Henry VIII's mistress, and you see her, the first, like, part of the book is seeing her, like, becoming his mistress and, like, trying to play him so that, like, her family, basically, trying to play him so that she become his mistress and she become powerful to make their family powerful, but she's just a little girl, honestly, so you see her growing up and dealing with that, and then you see her realizing that she doesn't really like the court life and all she wants to do is be with her kids, and then you see her sister start to grab his attention, and you see from, like, Mary's perspective, like, how hard Anne plays him and how trickstery she is and the things she does so that she can keep his attention and that power, which is kind of like she does some messed up stuff. And then you see the fall of her family, basically, and she's probably the only one that gets out of the situation without very bad things, just because of how crazy King Henry VIII is. But I don't know, this story just enraptured me. Like, again, like, these books, they're different from what I normally read, but they're honestly my favorite books I've read this year, because they stick with me in a way that fantasy doesn't, because it's kind of like I see the same thing, although it's obviously all different, but it's just they stick with me differently. I don't know. But I'm rambling way too much while telling you guys about things, but it's okay because we only have 5 more. The next one is History Is All You Left Me by Adam Silvera. This is about a guy whose ex-boyfriend he's still in love with, but he ends up dying, and at the funeral he meets his ex-boyfriend's current boyfriend, and they end up turning to each other because they're the only people who understand what they're going through, because they were both obviously in love with this boy. So you uncover what happened with his relationship with his ex-boyfriend, and how, like, honestly how beautiful it was, but, like, why things ended and why he's not over it just because of the way things ended. And then you kind of understand how, like, the ex-boyfriend changed and fell in love with a new guy, and, like, it's just the loss, the feeling of loss in this book. I could not go more than 10 pages without bawling for the first 100 pages of this book. It really just emotionally drains you. It was hard for me to get through it, but I wanted to because it was so great, but it was just very difficult. But I definitely recommend this book for anyone who likes to occasionally make themselves feel sad, because that's how I felt. Then I'm still dying. The next book I have is Strange the Dreamer by Laini Taylor. You all know how good this book is. It's amazing. I can't even tell the synopsis because I've done it so many times, but it's about this guy called Laszlo Strange who has dedicated his whole life to be a scholar and study specifically about this lost city. Um, it's something happened to the city 200 years ago, and there's been no contact from it, and no one even knows if it's still there, because if anyone who goes to try and see if it's still there never comes back. But the name of the city is also forgotten, so it's called the City of Weep, and when you say it, you feel like very depressed. I don't know, I just love that part, it's so interesting. But a convoy comes from the City of Weep to collect like mathematicians and engineers and like the best people from this land so they can come help solve a problem that Weep is having. And Laszlo ends up getting to go because of his knowledge of Weep. He's kind of like their storyteller, but so it's really cool, and you see him like going there and figuring out what the problem is. And there is a second perspective in this book from a girl with blue skin who's not supposed to be alive. And that's all I'm going to tell you about that. And it's super good, and you have to read it. The next book I have is Hunting Prince Dracula by Carrie Maniscalco. This is the second book to the Stalking Jack the Ripper, and I just really love her characters and just her characters are so dynamic and interesting, and you just want to know what's happening with them. And I love it because in this book, the main character is actually suffering from PTSD from the first book. So I just love seeing that in books. I think that's really cool to see because people can't just walk away from the horrors that a lot of books put them through and be fine. So that's really cool. But her and her friend, whose name I forget, but he's super cute, end up getting to go to this school for people who are going to become people who deal with dead people. You know what I mean? This school for like cutting open dead people and solving murders. That's kind of what I mean. I can't think of the name right now, but I'm just gonna move on. But of course, the school can't just go on normally. There are murders happening, and they get caught up in them and figuring out what's happening. So it's just super good. I love it. The next book I have is Roar by Cora Cormac. This book got me. I can't even really remember it because I read it over spring break, so it was just a long time ago. But this is one of my favorite books of the year, obviously, as it comes in at number 2. This world is so beautiful and interesting. Just like, I love worlds that are like desert themed, and this is like deserts, but it also has like rocks. I don't know, it's just beautiful. The world to me is gorgeous, but the magic system is so interesting. So in this world, storms are sentient beings that just try to kill people. So there's these people who are actually able to battle the storms and steal their hearts. So that's kind of like how that goes, which is really, really interesting. They're called Stormlings. So the main character is not a Stormling, so she cannot take over as the next queen unless she gets into an arranged marriage with someone who is a very powerful Stormling, so that she can kind of keep up the face that she has her own powers. So no one knows she doesn't have powers except her mom, who's the queen. So she gets into this arranged marriage, and the man's just really not a good guy, and she decides she doesn't want to marry him, and she actually finds out that there's a black market where they sell Stormling magic. So she finds out that she can have magic she needs to rule her kingdom, so she doesn't need to marry him. So she runs away to discover this magic so that when she comes back, she can rightfully take over her kingdom. And my oh my, is there so much that happens. She gets involved with these people that, like, they fight down storms and then sell the hearts to others to use them as magic, and I can't even, you gotta read it. It's such a good book, and I really want the next one to come out, but the author hasn't had the next one come out, and that's just very upsetting to me. And now we have our final book. We're finally there. It is an emotional novel, and that is A Court of Mist and Fury by Sarah J. Maas. I ended up reading the entire rest of the series. I read the third one and the novella in October. So this book, gotta tell you, oh my god, I love it. So after the first novel, a lot of things happened. A lot of things have changed now because of what the characters suffered in the first novel. So this is actually another book where the main character is now suffering from PTSD from like the horrible things that happened in the first novel, which I really, really loved. But you just, I can't even like get into it. Like I can't spoil it because this is so different. I hated the first book in the series. A Court of Thorns and Roses, didn't enjoy. The rest of the series, amazing, have to say. So honestly, just read it. Like, I can't even give a synopsis because nothing will do it the justice it deserves, but it is the most beautiful book I've ever read. The most enthralling, I can't put it down. Everything you know gets flipped on its head. Everything you know is wrong. There's so much more going on. It expands everything to so many degrees, and it's just like, oh my god. You guys just have to read it. I don't even know how to talk about it. But I'm gonna end this video now because it's a very long video. My bad. I didn't even give good synopsis. I just told you how the book made me feel. That was kind of the point of this video because it's my favorite book, so I hope you guys enjoyed that. Let me know what some of your favorite books you read this year was in the comments down below, because I would really love to hear that. That didn't really make sense, but that's because I'm stuffy. I said words, I promise. But I'll see you all in my next one. Bye-bye!